Now, in the previous lecture, we added this title component. And by doing so, we made sure that we had this reusable title. But speaking of reusability and repeating certain things and settings, you might have noticed that these colors, which I'm using, are used in different places of the app. I'm using colors in the start game screen, in the primary button component, in the title component. And having all these colors in all these places is not ideal. It's just as in web development with CSS. If you're using the same colors in different places, which you typically are, repeating them manually is annoying because you always have to copy the exact same hex codes. And if you would change the color at some point, and even if it's just a slight change, a small change, you would have to apply that in different files of your project, which of course is not great. Now in CSS, you could solve this problem by using CSS variables, CSS custom properties. But this feature doesn't exist with React Native because we're not using CSS here. Therefore, what is commonly done in React Native is that you create a helper file that exposes certain constant values like the colors you're using. And for this, I'll add a new folder, which you could name util for utility, or constants, or whatever you want. And I'll go for constants because I'll manage some constant reused values in there. And then I'll add a colors.js file in there. And in this file, I'll create a colors constant, which is just a regular JavaScript object. But in this object, I'm now going to set up various properties which I'll reuse over and over again throughout this app. For example, a primary color, and since I plan on managing multiple shades of that primary color, I'll name this primary 500. It doesn't have to be 500, it could be primary 1 and 2 and so on, but I will indicate how saturated or dark a shade is by higher or lower numbers after the main property name. Now my primary 500 number could be this primary plum color which I have here in my button, for example. So in colors, I'll set this here as my primary 500 color. Now we can export this colors constant here as a default and import it in all the places where this color is needed, like in the primary button. There we also have a different shade, by the way, because of that ripple effect. It's a slightly darker shade. So I'll go to my colors constant and also add primary 600 to store this shade here as well. And then in primary button, as mentioned, we can import colors from going up one level, diving into the constants folder, and then into the colors file. And now here we want to use the darker shade. So I will access colors.primary600 to use that constant value. And down here in the style sheet, we can use this constants array as well, and I can access colors primary 500. And if we would change the colors here in this colors file, those changes would be applied to all the components where we import this constant. That's the advantage of using this approach. Because now we can manage the colors in one global place and then use these colors in multiple components, and changes therefore only have to be made in one place instead of many places. So I'll go to all the other places where I'm using these colors as well, like the start game screen. Though there I'm not using this plum color as it seems, so no change needs to be made there. Oh, I am using it here, an even darker shade. So let's cut this from start game screen and add this darker shade, maybe as primary 800 to leave an extra space for an in-between shade if we should need it, and add this here. And then in start game screen, we also want to import colors from going up constants colors like this. We can then use this down here and use colors.primary 800, which was this super dark shade we added. And we can now also add the yellow color here. This is our accent color, so the alternative color. So I'll name this accent 500 and store the yellow color here. And then again in the game screen, in the places where we need that, in the start game screen, we can replace this hard-coded hex code with colors accent 500. So do that here and here. And we're using that same yellow color in the title component. So therefore here we can now also import colors from going up, constants colors, and use that instead of the hard-coded yellow values here. So that we have colors accent 500 here for the text color, and then also for the border color. And that's how we can use these color constants in those various components. Now we don't use any colors in app.js. Oh yes, we do here. So let's also import it there. Import colors from /constants colors. And then here, this should be, it's an extra shade actually, as I can see. So we might want to add that. And this looks like a shade between primary 600 and 800. So it's good that we left some space here. Yeah, I think it fits in there. And now we can use that. We can use this newly added color, this primary 700 shade here in this app file. And then this is our default yellow. So here we can use our accent 500 color. With that, if we save this, this should work again, and we should have the same look and feel as before. Also, if I reload and end up on the starting screen, this looks good. But now we're managing this in a global place with all the advantages I outlined.